from all 50 states and 58 countries in a wide range of cultures and faith traditions. This ceremony today takes place on the ancestral lands of the Abenaki Nation, in a city that was built on the hopes and dreams of immigrants and working people. I'd like us to just take a moment before we begin the program for a moment of silence, of prayer, of contemplation, whatever suits you best, to think about those who came before, those who are here with you today, and those who will follow after you. Let us be present with them in your hearts and in your thoughts as you take a moment. Thank you. Even in a moment of silence, you can hear babies making noises, and it's one of my favorite parts of the ceremony here, because it reminds us of how many parents are in the room graduating today. And when I ask people, why did you do this hard thing, right? You went back for a degree. Maybe it's a degree you started and didn't finish. Maybe you've come back for a graduate degree. But you do this while you're working, while you're doing a military service, while you're a parent. And more often than not, what people say back to me is, I want my kid to be proud of me. I want my child to know his mom was a college graduate, her dad is a college graduate. It's a very, very powerful motivator. So when I hear kids in the audience, this is a good sign. I like them to be as loud as they possibly can. Let me introduce the platform party. I'm going to ask you all to stand up as I announce you, either by group or by name, and please remain standing during the introductions. Leading the procession was our mace bearer, James Myers. I love that we have a mace. It feels very Game of Thrones. As Duchess Bling, by the way, in this outfit, come on. Next, representing our Board of Trustees is our trustee Arthur Sullivan. The academic and executive leadership teams of the university. Our two student speakers, and finally, our honorary degree recipient and commencement speaker today, Senator Cory Booker. I grew up in a working class neighborhood in the Boston area. No one I knew when I grew up had gone to college. My own parents had 8th grade educations. My dad was a day laborer, construction. My mom worked in a factory. In fact, all the men in my family worked in construction, and all the women worked in factories or in stores or as housekeepers or raising kids. College was not something to which we aspired. It wasn't a topic of discussion at our kitchen table. It was something for other people's kids. We weren't terribly poor. We weren't wealthy, but we never went without a meal. The house was never cold, so I don't want to overstate that part of it. But we did lack something in my neighborhood. We lacked a kind of aspiration, right? It wasn't poverty of finance. It was poverty of hope, poverty of dreams. No one was thinking about is college for me. That question wasn't available to us. We didn't even know we could ask it. Aspiration in my neighborhood was a job that was inside, so you weren't working out in the elements, and it was a job that had a pension. If it was a state job, that was like hitting the water, right? You could get a car, you could buy a house maybe at some point. Then in the 6th grade, at a parent-teacher conference, my mother sat down with my 6th grade teacher, Mr. Schlafman, who I adored. And he said, you know, I think Paul could go to college someday. And this hit her like a thunderbolt. She hung on to that conversation until she passed away at age 96. Because all of a sudden, she had a new dream, a dream for me. She didn't know how college worked, she didn't know the cost, she didn't know what I had to do to get there. But all she could think about is, you could go to college someday. And she said it enough that at some point, that seemed like a possibility to me. She gave me permission. He gave her permission, she gave me permission to dream a bigger dream. And when she eventually saw me walk across the stage, not unlike this one, and certainly not as good a student as everyone here, but good enough to get across the stage, her joy was limitless. Today for me, this is a celebration of your aspirations, your hopes, your dreams for you and your kids and your family and your community. And the journey here for many of you has been a long one. This is not an easy thing you've done. There have been detours, I'm sure, stumbles, stops and starts. It takes a long time. But we live in a world of immediate gratification, where we expect the reward to be immediate, the payoff to be immediate. You didn't do that. You bore down. You plugged away. You kept at it. You squeezed us in between all the things that are also demands on your life. Everyone here had a path that was different, but the finish line is the same, the goal is the same, and the thing that no one can ever take away from you is that you are now a college graduate. You have that undergraduate degree, that graduate degree, that's yours, that's it, you did it. You began in whatever way you may have begun, but you all finished strong, and we're here to celebrate that. So this is a big deal. We forget that having a college degree is not the norm in America. Having a graduate degree is fewer than 10% of Americans. You are all exceptional in that sense. So a great celebration of you and all who got you here on a special day. I'm going to conclude before we move on to the program with just a little bit of advice. And I know my staff hears this and is like, do you really have to do this every year? And you will see this borne out in a little while when people come up. I have to give you some advice about how to navigate getting your diploma. So there will be people who will help you. Some of you will freeze. Don't. You hand the card, just keep on moving. I'll give you a little push. I guarantee you it is not about the runway. No one's seeing you then. It's about up here, so don't delay. Just come on up. And I promise you, we will not rush you. It will not feel like you had too little time on the Jumbotron. There's always at least 5 people who are like an NFL receiver. You ever see these guys running down the field and they look at the Jumbotron to see if anyone's catching up with them? They're walking up like this, and they're looking at the Jumbotron at themselves, and then they bang into the rail. Just come on, stay focused on me, folks, on my side. You wonder about all this greenery here, because every year someone comes up and hasn't been watching, so they think I either try to jump over, which that's why we have a barricade now, I'm going down the other side. Just come up one side, go down, back to the place you were before. And then the last bit of advice is bask in that moment, and my advice to family and friends is make as much noise as humanly possible when your loved one is getting their diploma. They worked hard for it, it's a time to celebrate. So, thank you, and let us begin the program. Every year, we have student speakers. Thank you, I have one good fan here. Every year, we want to hear your voices as part of the program. So we have student speakers. And this year we have 2 student speakers who represent and speak to your experience, and it is a pleasure for me to introduce them. Our first speaker will be Jacinta Casimir Anyanwu, and then I will get up again and introduce Robert Lee Testerman Jr. Jacinta, will you please come up here first? Please join me in welcoming her to the stage.
Good morning, President Paulas, distinguished Dean, Board of Trustees, faculty, friends, family, and my fellow graduates. Even though I'm nervous, I'm not going to forget to acknowledge Senator Bunga and all mothers here. Happy Mother's Day. Congratulations, especially to the magnificent SNHU graduating class of 2019. It is a privilege to be standing in your presence this afternoon. To be honest with you, this feels unreal, and I hope I don't fall off this stage. In fact, my presence here today shows the power of education. Being born in extreme poverty, I have seen some of the most challenging situations in life. From hunger to lack of school fees to homelessness. Even as a child, I have always known that the only way I could change my life was through education. With God's blessings, determination, and kindness from others, I finished nursing school. Today, I'm honored to be standing in your presence. It's a master's degree. In public health, from Southern New Hampshire University, a school with a difference meant for working adults. As a busy mom with 3 children, all under the ages of 7, it was hard. Some days I felt like I was losing my mind. One of those days was the day my then 2-year-old deleted every single thing I wrote in a biostatistics class that I was struggling to finish. I cried like a baby. I know most of you had challenges through the way, but here you are today dressed in your graduating gown. Today is a day of celebration, and then to celebrate all the hard work that got you here. Earning my master's degree has made me more confident in myself, brought new career opportunities and personal growth, but above all, it has made me a role model to my beautiful children and to younger ones looking up to me. I now have a lifelong desire for learning, as I am planning to return to school this fall for my doctorate degree. To my fellow graduates, this is the beginning of good things. The excitement and expectations are high now, but that might go away as you learn more about your new circumstances. Remember, every moment is an opportunity to learn from people around you. Do not get discouraged when the job you are hoping for does not come immediately. Be ready always, because your workload and responsibilities is about to increase. The purpose is to identify what you are good at. Learn to hear feedback and never let it fester. Make corrections and move on. Being focused on success is good, but what is most important is treating people around you with dignity and making positive impact in their lives. Don't forget to balance family with work, but remember, your family comes first. Now let's go out there, being principled, productive, proactive, and ready to serve our diverse communities and ever-changing world in truth and integrity. Thank you.
Please join me in welcoming Robert to the podium, please.
That's going to be hard to follow up. Good afternoon. I'd first like to thank President LeBlanc, distinguished guests, the Board of Trustees, and the faculty and staff for not only being here, but also helping us along the way. I'd also like to extend my thanks to the friends and families of all the graduates. Without you, this journey would have been a lot more difficult.